the committee for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Capito, and I think your questions are extremely important, so thank you for the manner in which you have presented this. First, for Administrator Batt, I agree with you. It is the issue of the scope and scale. This tragedy on the Francis Scott Key has been characterized as being the largest maritime claim in history. So when you talk about scope and scale, is this sort of off the charts?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I mean, I think you referenced in your testimony the video that we saw. I think that you don't see. We have a lot of issues with bridges, and in the country, we rarely see a collapse of this size of structure. And so, yes, it is it will be the largest maritime claim, and so. From a precedent standpoint, it is unprecedented.
So I just hope that puts somewhat to rest the difference between this tragedy and emergency relief funding versus a lot of the others that are nowhere in this category whatsoever. But this is much closer. Well, this exceeds Minnesota, but it exceeds even some of the worst emergency circumstances that we've had. So let me get to Senator Capito's point in regards to the tolls and tolls offset. First, you raised an interesting point that the bridge will be rebuilt and there will be tolls coming from it, and that the state benefits from that new facility. But I would point out that all of the emergency relief programs, the economies locally benefit from the federal government's resources that are put in. When you dealt with Hurricane Irma and you rebuilt the infrastructure and community, the businesses got back up quicker, sales tax increased, revenues increased, local governments did well, states did well. That's what it's all about, is getting your economy back to scale. So in regards to the toll revenues, and I'll repeat this again because I want to make sure, Secretary Wiedefeld, you have a chance to respond on this. The overwhelming expenses, as I understand it, is the operations of these facilities, not the infrastructure cost itself. Am I right on that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. The operating costs, particularly labor costs, are a significant part of any budget for the toll authority.
And we have how many toll facilities in Maryland?
We have 9.
9. So this is one of 9. And these revenues will be lost for a substantial period of time. And when we say lost, let me just point out to the members of the committee, there are alternatives to paying a toll to transact through this area. You can go through city streets, which is the worst example, because you're going to go through neighborhoods, beating up roads dramatically with these trucks. Interfering with communities. But that is one option. Another option is to go around the Beltway where there's no tolls. That's going to probably be the preferred option for the larger vehicles that can't go through the tunnels anyway. They don't pay any tolls doing that. So there's a significant part of the traffic that will avoid paying tolls for the next couple years, costing the toll facilities those revenues that were projected. Now, do you have a way of recovering that?
No. So it's adding costs to us because as that traffic moves on the Beltway, that increases our operating costs. So, for instance, we have put emergency response units out there because the slightest hiccup in the system has an exponential impact on congestion up and down the Northeast Corridor. So we put in operating costs for that. We're anticipating higher maintenance costs due to the heavier traffic because these are the oversized vehicles and any hazardous materials now have to take this 25-mile detour on the Baltimore Beltway. So those are all additional costs that we now will incur for several years, 4+ years.
And they're not under the emergency relief recoveries. That's using your normal transportation revenues, how you obtain them through the user fees, et cetera, in the state of Maryland. And I guess the last point on this is that additionally, the state of Maryland is going to incur considerably more expenses, and the recoveries, 100% of the recoveries related to the bridge are returned to the Emergency Relief Fund, are they not?
Yes, they are.
So the federal government's not going to pay 100%. They're going to pay 100% less the recoveries. And the recoveries are not only insurance, they're third-party claims.
Right.
And those third-party claims, I admit, it's going to take years before we uncover that. But there is at least very serious evidence that there could be wrongdoing in the manner in which the vessel was handled, which could bring in substantial funds. That will go to the Federal Emergency Relief Fund, as it should. So I don't want to leave with the impression that the federal government is paying 100%. They're not going to pay 100%. They're going to get the recoveries. And the recoveries will far exceed the 10%. So as a matter of the burdens to the state of Maryland, in a manner in which the state of Maryland is complying with the requirements of the code as it relates to toll facilities, that's not something that is it's not allowed. We're complying with all the requirements. It would be, I think, just a terrible precedent if we start to try to figure out the values of the emergency relief funds to the local governments that are benefiting from this, from all emergencies, because each one is different. This clearly complies with any standard on the scope of the tragedy and should be reimbursed at 100%. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Ricketts.
Thank you, Senator Capito, and